I'm Elena Murray, 36, a single mom raising my 9-year-old son Alex. My niece's 8th birthday party at my parents' Minnesota suburban home turned into a nightmare. Betrayal hit us hard. I still hear Alex's choked sobs, cutting through the party's cheerful chaos like a dagger. His face was bruised, swollen, and red. Sticky cake frosting and dirt smeared his clothes. His beloved baseball card collection lay torn and scattered across the floor, like worthless confetti. The air smelled of fresh-cut grass mixed with the sickly sweet vanilla from the birthday cake, but it was tainted by the metallic tang of my own rising fear, a scent that clung to my skin like sweat on a humid day. They called it a joke, my sister Sophia and her friend Clara, laughing as they turned my child's pain into their twisted entertainment. "You're overreacting," they sneered, their voices dripping with mock innocence. But I saw the fear in Alex's eyes, wide and pleading, the kind of fear no child should ever have to endure. This wasn't childish mischief. It was deliberate. It was meant to humiliate my son, to break his spirit. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat like a hammer against my ribs, as the truth sank in. The very people I trusted most were the ones who orchestrated this cruelty. Every word they uttered cut like a knife, sharp and unrelenting. The weight of years of family tension crashing down on me like a speeding train, leaving me breathless and trembling. I stood there, fists clenched so tight my nails dug into my palms, the sting grounding me as I readied myself to face the truth, no matter how ugly it was. What kind of family does this to a child? How far would you go to protect the one you love? Stay with me to uncover the shocking betrayal and how I found the strength to fight back. Have you ever had to stand up against your own family to protect someone you love? Share your story in the comments. I'll read every word. Being a single mother, raising Alex is my greatest pride, but it has never been easy. As one of the 26% of single moms facing high parenting stress compared to just 16% for partnered parents, according to studies I've read late at night while scrolling through parenting forums, it often feels like I'm carrying the weight of the world alone. At 36, I have spent years piecing together a life for the two of us, after my divorce from Greg, Alex's father. He's a software engineer who, after our separation, moved across the country, leaving me to juggle both parenthood and an accounting job in a small apartment in Minnesota. Every late night bent over spreadsheets, the glow of my laptop screen burning my eyes, every rushed drive to Alex's school events, all felt worthwhile when I saw his smile, especially when he spoke with passion about his baseball card collection, his joy, and his escape. The quiet hum of the fridge in our tiny kitchen would mix with his excited chatter, a soothing reminder that we were building something real, even if it was just the two of us against the odds. My sister Sophia has long seen me as a thorn in her side. Her envy has always cast a shadow over my life, turning what should have been sibling support into a battlefield. It reminds me of those Reddit AITA stories I stumbled upon during sleepless nights, tales of golden children versus scapegoats, where parents dismiss outright sabotage as siblings being siblings, breeding resentment that festers for decades. At 17, I earned a full scholarship to a prestigious university thanks to my stellar grades and debate team achievements. But Sophia destroyed it by spreading lies to the admissions office, accusing me of plagiarizing my application essay. The scholarship was revoked, forcing me into years of student debt that still haunts my credit score. My mother, Beatrice, never questioned her. Instead, she rewarded Sophia with a red convertible for her high school graduation. "She deserves it for her hard work," my mother said, dismissing my academic awards as though they were worthless trinkets. The scent of new car leather wafted through our driveway that day, a luxury I could only dream of, while I stood there feeling invisible. My father, Samuel, merely nodded, his silence serving as approval. He took Sophia out on special outings, ice cream runs, that filled the air with sugary sweetness, while I got nothing more than a curt good job for bringing home an honor roll certificate. The hurt didn't stop there. It built like a storm, layer by layer, until it threatened to drown me. In college, I fell deeply in love with Greg. We dreamed of a future together, spending endless nights talking under the stars, the cool night air carrying whispers of promise. But Sophia inserted herself into our relationship, even showing up on dates uninvited, sowing seeds of doubt in Greg's mind about my loyalty. "She's not ready to commit," she whispered, masking her cruelty with that charming smile of hers. Those seeds grew, sparking arguments that fractured us, yelling matches where the room felt too small, the air thick with unspoken accusations. When I confronted my family, Beatrice brushed it off. "She's just trying to help you too." And Samuel, as always, stayed silent, his indifference a heavier blow than any words could be. The divorce left me raising Alex alone, rebuilding from nothing while Sophia suffered no consequences at all. I remember the day the papers were signed, the sterile smell of the lawyer's office mixed with my tears, a bitter reminder of how one person's envy could unravel a life. It fueled a deep-seated resentment, the kind that psychologists on sites like Good Therapy warn about, signs of emotional abuse, like constant invalidation that erode your self-worth over time. I started journaling then, scribbling my thoughts in a worn notebook to process the trauma. As experts suggest, finding solace in online communities where others shared similar scars of family betrayal. Alex's love for baseball cards began at 6, sparked by a gift from Greg, a simple pack that became his whole world. He spent hours organizing them in our cramped living room, the faint scent of cardboard and ink filling the air as he memorized the stats of players like Kirby Puckett. His most treasured possession was a rare rookie card, something he saved up to buy from Anita Wells at the local card shop. "Mom, this is my ticket to the big leagues," he said, clutching the card like a trophy, his small hands warm against mine. That card became his confidence, his small joy in a childhood where he too often felt overlooked, a shield against the world's harsh edges. But the favoritism in my family only grew worse, a classic golden child dynamic where Sophia and her kids were exalted, and Alex and I were pushed to the shadows. Beatrice showered Sophia's children with lavish gifts, drones buzzing through the air, gaming consoles with their electronic hum, while Alex received second-hand books, if anything at all, their pages yellowed and musty. When I finally earned a promotion after years of hard work, the kind that left my fingers cramped from typing, Beatrice barely noticed. Instead, she gushed about Sophia's brief stint as a real estate agent, her voice echoing through family calls like a victory parade. Samuel chimed in. "She's got real business talent," without even mentioning my achievement. The favoritism wasn't just neglect. It was a deliberate choice to elevate Sophia and diminish me, leaving me with that gnawing self-doubt. Am I really overreacting, or is this the emotional abuse I've read about, the kind that therapists advise setting firm boundaries against? It fueled a resentment I buried deep for Alex's sake, hoping he could still have some semblance of family, flawed as it was. I tried to keep Alex connected to his grandparents and cousins, though each visit felt like stepping into a minefield, the suburban streets lined with manicured lawns that hid the rot beneath. Sophia's triumphant smirks, like a predator scenting weakness. Beatrice's constant comparisons, her words sharp as the chill in the Minnesota wind. Samuel's indifference, a silence that weighed heavier than any storm. They all cut deep, leaving invisible scars that throbbed with every family photo where Alex was relegated to the edge. But Alex's excitement at playing with his cousins kept me coming back, the way his eyes lit up, his laughter mingling with the distant hum of neighborhood traffic. I told myself I could endure the verbal daggers, that I could shield Alex from their toxicity, wrapping him in my love like a protective blanket. I was wrong. So very wrong. Before Lily's birthday party, I helped Alex pick out a gift. My 9-year-old stood in our cramped living room, carefully wrapping a baseball playset for his cousin. His small fingers fumbled with the roll of tape, but his face glowed with pride, the room filled with the crinkle of wrapping paper and his hopeful chatter. "She's going to love it, Mom," he said, his voice brimming with innocence. I forced a smile, my chest tightening with unease, a familiar knot that twisted like the stress stats I'd internalized. 33% of all parents experience high burnout, and for single moms like me, it heightens the risk to our kids' emotional development, increasing chances of poor mental health down the line. Any family gathering at my parents' house meant facing Sophia, and her presence always carried a sting, like the Reddit stories of dismissed bullying that led to lifelong grudges. I wanted nothing more than for Alex to have a normal, happy day with his cousins. But beneath my resolve, doubt gnawed quietly. A whisper of self-doubt. What if I'm failing him by exposing him to this? I glanced again at the gift, a simple playset we'd scrimped to buy, and knew without question that my mother would compare it to whatever extravagant present Sophia brought. Alex, oblivious to the unspoken slights, bounced with excitement. "Can I bring my baseball card collection to show them?" he asked, clutching the binder that held his treasured cards. They were his prized possession, each one a piece of his young heart. I hesitated, instinct telling me to leave them at home. The air suddenly heavy with foreboding, but Alex's pleading eyes wore me down. "All right, but don't let them out of your sight," I warned, my voice sharper than I intended, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. Alex nodded eagerly, promising to take care of them. But what if this was just the beginning? A few days earlier, my phone had buzzed with a text from Sophia. "There's something special planned for the party. Don't miss it." The words cut like a blade, pointed and deliberate, their casual tone masking what felt like a veiled threat. I had even overheard her on the phone with Clara, her closest friend, the week before, their voices hushed and conspiratorial, drifting through the thin walls of my parents' house during a brief visit. "It'll be unforgettable," Sophia had said, followed by laughter so cold it sent a shiver down my spine, like ice water trickling along my back. I told myself I was being paranoid, that it was just another of her attention-seeking stunts, but the unease clung to me, a silent warning I couldn't shake, twisting in my gut like a knot of tangled yarn. As a single mom, I'd read plenty about recognizing toxic family patterns on sites like Brightside and Good Therapy articles, warning that dismissing early signs of emotional abuse, like constant favoritism or sabotage, could lead to escalation, and how setting boundaries early was key to protecting your mental health and your child's. With 65% of working parents experiencing burnout, according to surveys I'd come across while doom scrolling at 2 a.m. I knew I was teetering on that edge, my exhaustion amplified by the isolation of solo parenting, where every decision felt like a high-stakes gamble. Yet here I was, ignoring my instincts again, hoping for a sliver of normalcy. That night, after tucking Alex in, I found myself browsing online forums, much like those Reddit AITA threads, where people shared horror stories of sibling rivalry gone unchecked, parents labeling one child the golden one while scapegoating the other, leading to years of therapy and no-contact decisions. One post in particular stuck with me. A woman describing how her sister's envy had poisoned family events, dismissed by parents as just jealousy, until it culminated in public humiliation at a wedding. "Am I the asshole for cutting ties?" she asked, and the comments flooded in with support, echoing my own doubts. It was a small comfort, reading those strangers' words in the dim glow of my screen, the cursor blinking like a heartbeat as I typed out my own anonymous query. AITA for dreading a family party because of my sister's history. The responses poured in. NTA, protect your kid. Set boundaries now before it explodes, reminding me that I wasn't alone, that this resentment wasn't just in my head. But as I closed the laptop, the knot in my stomach tightened. What if Sophia's special plan was aimed at us? As Alex and I got ready to head to my parents' suburban Minnesota home, I kept him close, watching as he carefully slid the binder of baseball cards into his backpack, the zipper's rasp echoing in our quiet apartment like a final warning. "Are you sure you want to bring them?" I asked again, hoping he might reconsider, my fingers still sticky from the tape we'd used on Lily's gift, a residue that clung like the lingering doubt in my mind. "Of course, Mom. My cousins will think they're awesome," he said, his grin wide and bright, oblivious to the undercurrents that made my pulse quicken. I swallowed my worry, unwilling to dim his joy. But inside, questions swirled like storm clouds. What if Sophia's text wasn't innocent? What if this party was the explosion those forum posters warned about? On the drive over, Alex chattered nonstop about his favorite players, his voice sparkling against the knot of dread tightening in my stomach. the car's air conditioner humming coldly, while the suburban landscape blurred past neat rows of houses with manicured lawns that hid so many secrets. Sophia's text replayed in my mind, the tone too triumphant, too calculated, stirring memories of past betrayals that therapy articles urged me to journal about for healing. What exactly was she planning? And why did I have this sinking feeling that Alex was the real target? As we pulled up to the house, the familiar scent of Beatrice's garden roses, blooming in defiance of the crisp air, did little to ease the tension coiling in my chest, a physical ache that mirrored the emotional burnout stats I'd internalized, where parental stress could spike kids' risks of anxiety by up to 20%. I parked the car, gripping the steering wheel a moment longer, whispering a silent vow to shield him, even as internal cliffhangers gnawed at me. But what if I couldn't? What if today marked the breaking point? Lily's birthday party was held in my mother's backyard in Minnesota, filled with laughter that rang hollow in my ears. Yet, I couldn't shake off the unease gnawing at me, a persistent itch under my skin amplified by the vibrant chaos around us, the smell of grilling burgers mingling with sunscreen and fresh grass, a sensory overload that heightened my vigilance. The chatter of relatives mixed with the shouts of children playing on the swings rang out everywhere, but my stomach twisted with a sense of foreboding, like the prelude to a storm you can feel in your bones. Sophia arrived with Clara, their smirks sharp as knives, their whispers dripping with something I couldn't quite catch, their designer perfumes clashing with the backyard's earthy aroma. They moved through the crowd with an air of superiority, Sophia tossing her hair arrogantly as if the whole place belonged to her, while Clara followed with a sly, malicious grin that made my skin crawl. I kept Alex close, his small hand gripping mine tightly, warm and trusting, the backpack carrying his precious baseball card collection slung over his shoulder. Alex quickly darted off to join his cousins, eager to share in the day's excitement, his sneakers kicking up bits of dirt as he ran. I watched him approach Sophia's kids, his face glowing with anticipation, but the atmosphere shifted almost instantly, a chill settling despite the Sunday. A boy about Alex's age snatched the baseball bat from his hands, shoving him aside with a mocking taunt. "You don't need this anyway." The words hung in the air like smoke, and a younger girl, no less spiteful, giggled and pointed. "Look at his stupid backpack." Her voice was loud enough to make a few people glance over, piercing the festive hum. Alex's shoulders slumped, but he forced a smile, trying to appear cheerful, his resilience breaking my heart as I recalled psych advice from good therapy about how such bullying, if dismissed, could imprint lasting trauma, urging parents to intervene swiftly to model healthy boundaries. My heart sank, a heavy drop in my chest, as my fists clenched involuntarily, nails digging into palms slick with nervous sweat. I scanned the adults, my mother too busy chatting with guests, laughing loudly, her voice carrying over the yard like a command. My father stood at the grill, focused on flipping burgers, eyes locked on the food. Utterly indifferent, the sizzle of meat, a mocking backdrop to the unfolding tension. I stepped closer, trying to keep Alex in sight, but Sophia's presence pulled my attention again, her eyes flicking toward him with a calculated gleam. She leaned toward Clara, speaking in a low but deliberate voice, her eyes flicking to Alex. "Just wait," she murmured, the corner of her mouth curling upward in a way that sent a fresh wave of dread through me. Clara nodded, phone in hand, her fingers poised as if ready to record something, the device's screen glinting in the sunlight like a weapon. My heartbeat quickened, thumping against my ribs like a drumbeat of warning, echoing the stats on family caregiver burnout, where chronic stress could lead to physical symptoms like this very palpitations. I wanted to grab Alex's hand and leave, the impulse surging like adrenaline, but he had already run toward the other children, determined to fit in, his laughter tentative amid their jeers. I told myself to stay calm, that maybe I was overthinking, drawing from those online forums where users shared similar paranoia that turned out justified. But the lump in my chest tightened with every step Alex took, questions piling up. What if Sophia's overheard call was about this? What if her unforgettable surprise was designed to crush him? The children's game grew rough, the air filled with the scuff of shoes on grass and high-pitched shouts. The boy shoved Alex down again, this time over a ball. then burst out laughing as Alex stumbled, dirt smearing his knees. "You're so slow," he shouted, tossing the ball to the girl, who instantly echoed his mockery, her giggle sharp as glass. Alex clutched his backpack tightly, his eyes darting toward me for comfort, wide with unspoken plea, and I felt a surge of protective rage, tempered by the knowledge from therapy sites that reacting impulsively could escalate things better to document and set firm limits later. I started to step forward, my shoes sinking slightly into the soft earth. But Sophia's voice cut through the noise. "Let them play," she said sweetly, but with a tone dripping in disdain, her smile far too fake, lips glossed and curving unnaturally. Clara giggled, setting her phone in a hidden spot, lens aimed at Alex, the subtle click of it starting to record, making my blood run cold. The other adults, neighbors, distant relatives were still engrossed in food and conversation, ignoring the tension, their plates laden with potato salad, whose vinegary scent turned my stomach. My mother waved off my concern. "Kids will be kids. It's normal," she said, her dismissal echoing those Reddit stories where parents enabled bullies, leading to long-term resentment. My father didn't even look up, his spatula scraping the grill with rhythmic indifference. I hovered near Alex, my worry now gnawing into fear, the sun beating down on my neck like an accusation. He tried to join in a game of tag, but the boy blocked him again, shoving him back with a sneer. "You don't belong here." The words cut deeper than the shove, landing like a physical blow, and the girl instantly piled on, mocking Alex's effort. "Why do you even bother trying?" Alex's cheeks flushed, a deep crimson, his arms wrapped around the backpack as if clinging to a lifeline, the fabric crinkling under his grip. I wanted to scream, to drag him away, but I froze, torn between the wish for him to have a normal day and my instinct to protect him. Internal questions raging. What if this roughness was part of Sophia's plan? What if the special something was about to unfold right here? Sophia's eyes locked on mine, her smirk widening as though daring me, a challenge that made my palms sweat anew. Clara remained patient, her phone pointed steadily, her eyes gleaming with anticipation, the device's hum barely audible over the party's din. Every laugh from the children, every glance from Sophia, pushed the story towards something darker, the air thickening with suspense like the build-up in those revenge videos I'd watched on YouTube, where betrayals exploded into public reckonings. I couldn't take my eyes off Alex, my heart pounding as he tried to pretend he wasn't hurt, forcing a laugh that didn't reach his eyes. He kept smiling, still trying to belong, but I could see the pain etching lines on his young face, a vulnerability that therapy experts warned could affect emotional development if not addressed. I edged closer, lowering my voice. "Alex, stay near me." He nodded, but his cousins dragged him back into the game, their laughter sharp and cruel, pulling him like a current. Sophia leaned into Clara again, whispering. Both of them staring straight at Alex, their heads close, breaths mingling in conspiracy. The dread inside me solidified into certainty, a cold weight in my core. Something was about to go very, very wrong, and I didn't know if I could stop it. What if this was the escalation I'd feared all along? A strangled sob from the small tent in the backyard made my heart seize, the sound slicing through the noisy chatter of the party like a jagged blade, sharp and desperate, pulling me away from the crowd with an urgency that drowned out everything else. The laughter that had seemed innocent moments ago now turned sinister, echoing in my ears like mocking echoes in a hollow chamber. As I raced across the grass, my heartbeat pounding in my throat, the scent of trampled earth rising with each frantic step. The tent flap hung ajar, flapping gently in the breeze, and in the dim light inside, filtered through the canvas that smelled faintly of mildew and old rain, I found Alex curled up on the floor, his small body trembling like a leaf in a storm. His face was swollen, a dark red bruise spreading across his cheek, warm to the touch when I later pressed my fingers to it, pulsing with the heat of fresh injury. His shirt smeared with dirt and bits of cake frosting that stuck to the fabric in clumpy, sugary messes. His precious baseball cards lay scattered, torn to shreds, their edges curled and dirty, the glossy surfaces now matte and ruined. My knees nearly buckled as I dropped down beside him, my shaking hand resting on his shoulder, feeling the quiver of his sobs through his thin frame. "Alex, sweetheart, what happened?" I whispered, my voice breaking like fragile glass, the air in the tent thick and stifling, carrying the faint, acrid scent of his tears mixed with the sweetness of the frosting. His eyes, red and brimming with tears, met mine, filled with a fear that shattered me. A deep, primal terror that therapists like those on Brightside describe as a hallmark of emotional abuse in children, where bullying instills a chronic anxiety, leading to withdrawal and a desperate need to appease aggressors to avoid further pain. Knowing from studies that bullying can lead to lasting trauma, increasing risks of anxiety and depression in kids, effects that double when parental burnout is involved, as 57% of parents report feeling overwhelmed, potentially neglecting signs of distress, and exacerbating their child's emotional development issues. It hit me how my own stress as a single mom might have blinded me to the building storm. "Alex, sweetheart, what happened?" I repeated, my mind racing back to those moments of doubt earlier, when I'd questioned my paranoia about Sophia's text and whispers, telling myself it was just overactive imagination, fueled by years of resentment, perhaps even my own burnout, clouding my judgment. But now, with him here broken before me, that doubt evaporated, confirmed in the cruel reality, unfolding the escalation I'd feared, was no figment, but a deliberate strike. He pleaded, his voice barely more than a breath, hoarse from crying, "Mom, don't say anything. I'm scared they'll hate me even more." His words hit me like a punch to the gut, his tiny hands clutching my arm, begging me for silence, a plea rooted in that instinctive fear psychologists warn about, where bullied children internalize rejection, leading to poor mental health outcomes like heightened stress that persists into adulthood. I pulled him into my arms, his sobs muffled against my chest, each sound like a knife slicing into me, the warmth of his bruised cheek pressing against my skin, a tangible reminder of the violence he'd endured. His cards, his treasure, his dream lay ruined, scattered like fallen leaves, and still he feared rejection more than the pain etched across his face, the kind of fear that, as insights from good therapy suggest, can stunt emotional growth, teaching kids to suppress their feelings rather than express them, increasing vulnerability to long-term issues like anxiety disorders. I glanced at the pile of torn scraps, recognizing even his most prized rookie card, now nothing but jagged pieces with frayed edges, the colors faded under the dirt, and my vision blurred with a mix of rage and grief, the tent's dim light, casting eerie shadows that amplified the horror. But Alex's grip tightened, his voice shaking like a fragile whisper in the wind. "Please don't tell anyone. They'll just make it worse." His fear was all too real. The cry of a child desperate to belong, desperate to escape cruelty, mirroring those YouTube revenge stories I'd watched in moments of quiet fury tales, where hidden recordings of betrayals leak online, exposing the bullies to public backlash and karma's swift justice, turning their smugness into isolation. What if Clara's phone captured this? I thought fleetingly, a spark of dark hope amid the despair, imagining the video going viral, shredding Sophia's perfect facade like those cards on the floor. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but his trembling held me back, his small body radiating heat from the ordeal. I stroked his hair, the strands damp with sweat, and murmured, "I'm here, Alex. You're safe now." Even as doubt crept back in, was I really paranoid, or had I failed to set boundaries sooner, as therapy articles advise, to prevent this very escalation? Then I heard it, the sharp mocking laughter just outside the tent, cutting through the canvas like venomous barbs. Sophia stood there, arms crossed, her smug smile fixed on her face like a mask, her perfume wafting and cloying and artificial, clashing with the tent's musty air. Clara stood beside her, phone raised, the red recording light blinking ominously, capturing Alex's misery in cold digital clarity, her eyes gleaming with delight as if this were entertainment. "What a performance," Sophia sneered, her words dripping with venom, each syllable twisting the knife deeper. "Didn't think he'd cry that hard." Clara giggled, angling the phone to catch every detail, her cruel laughter echoing in time with Sophia's mockery, the sounds blending into a sinister chorus that confirmed every paranoid whisper in my mind. This wasn't my imagination, it was calculated cruelty. My blood boiled, a rush of heat surging through my veins, making my skin prickle as I clenched my fists and shot to my feet, shielding Alex from their gaze, his small form huddling behind me. "What did you do?" I growled, my voice low but trembling with fury, the air between us charged like before a thunderstorm. Sophia rolled her eyes, brushing off the question as if it were meaningless, her indifference a slap in the face, her smirk daring me to push back. "Just a game, Elena. Kids get carried away sometimes." Her casual tone ignited something primal in me, especially knowing how such dismissals enable bullies, leading to those stats where bullied kids face doubled risks of mental health issues, their fear manifesting in silence and self-doubt. Clara kept filming, her cruel laughter bubbling up again, the phone's lens unblinking like a predator's eye. I stepped forward, my body shaking, instincts screaming to protect Alex at all costs, the warmth of his bruise still lingering on my fingertips. "This is not a game," I snapped, my voice rising, echoing in the confined space of the tent. "He's hurt, and his cards are destroyed." Alex tugged at my sleeve, his voice no louder than a whisper in the wind. "Mom, don't. They'll laugh more." His fear stopped my outburst cold, the terror of humiliation weighing heavier than the physical pain. A classic sign of emotional trauma where kids prioritize avoidance over healing, as experts emphasize in child psychology resources. I turned back to him, kneeling down, my heart breaking at the sight of his swollen face, the bruise now blooming darker, its warmth a stark contrast to the chill of betrayal settling in my bones. "I'm taking you home," I whispered gently, helping him gather the shredded remains of his cards, my fingers brushing the torn pieces, feeling their rough edges like wounds on my own skin. Sophia's laughter trailed after us, her voice sing-song and cruel. Such drama. Clara's lens stayed fixed on us, unblinking, capturing every moment, the very footage that could one day leak, as in those viral YouTube revenge sagas, where betrayers face online outrage, their worlds crumbling under the weight of public karma. I guided Alex out of the tent, his trembling hand clutching mine, clammy and small, his backpack now empty, no longer holding the cards he'd once proudly shown off, the fabric sagging like his spirits. The party carried on around us, oblivious Beatrice still laughing with guests, her voice booming over the yard, Samuel still tending the grill, the sizzle of burgers, a indifferent underscore to the cruelty unfolding just steps away. Neither of them aware, or perhaps willfully blind to the malice, their indifference fueling the cycle, as burnout stats reveal how stressed parents often miss these red flags, doubling the emotional risks to their grandkids. I held Alex tight, my mind reeling with what I'd just witnessed. His pain, their laughter, the recording. This wasn't a childish prank anymore. It was deliberate, malicious, and I knew it wasn't over. Rage surged through me like a tidal wave, propelling me toward confrontation, but what if facing them head-on only made it worse? What if this video became the weapon that turned the tables? Rage surged through me like a tidal wave, propelling me toward confrontation, but what if facing them head-on only made it worse? What if this video became the weapon that turned the tables? Those questions flickered in my mind, but the sight of Alex's trembling form ignited something fiercer, a mother's fury that overrode doubt. I charged straight toward Sophia, Alex's trembling hand still clung tightly to mine, his tear-streaked face feeding the fire inside me, grief mingling with the rage like oil on flames, burning hotter with every step across the grass that now felt like enemy territory. The mocking laughter from the tent still echoed in my ears, a sinister soundtrack to the party's oblivious cheer, but in my eyes, there was only her Sophia's cruel smile, her casual stance near the picnic tables, as if she hadn't just orchestrated my son's torment. The air was thick with the smell of grilled meat and sunscreen, but it soured in my nostrils, twisted by the metallic taste of anger on my tongue. Clara stood beside her, phone aloft, the red light still blinking as she filmed, her grin widening like this. Was Prime content for some twisted YouTube revenge channel? Those videos I'd binge-watched in moments of quiet despair, where betrayals get exposed online, sparking public backlash that crumbles empires of arrogance. Maybe that's what this footage could become, I thought fleetingly. A tool for karma's swift hand, turning their cruelty into viral condemnation. I stopped just inches away, my voice shaking with fury, the words erupting like pent-up steam. "How could you let this happen?" I shouted, my fists clenched at my sides, nails biting into my palms until they drew tiny crescents of blood. Sophia tilted her head, eyes glinting with disdain, her lips curling into that familiar sneer. "You're no different from your mother, a failure." She spat, the words cutting like blades, each one laced with years of envy and sabotage, echoing the sibling rivalry that had poisoned our lives. Her venom scorched me, but what seared deeper was Alex shrinking beside me, his small body pressing close, his breath hitching in quiet sobs that fueled my grief, a profound sorrow for the innocence she'd stolen, mixed with the rage that made my vision tunnel. As a single mom, I'd read stats on how depression affects 1 in 5 of us, higher than partnered parents, with chronic stress from isolation and financial strain doubling the risk, according to health reports I'd pored over during late-night worries. In that moment, it all crashed over me. The exhaustion, the betrayal, the fear that my own burnout had left Alex vulnerable. But psych advice from Brightside articles flashed in my mind. Empowerment comes from recognizing toxic patterns and cutting ties to rebuild inner strength, like journaling your boundaries to heal from emotional abuse. No more. My vision blurred with hot tears of rage and grief, and before I could think, my hand lashed out, striking her cheek with a resounding slap that echoed across the yard like a thunderclap. The sting radiated through my palm, sharp and immediate, the warmth of her skin lingering on my fingers as gasps rippled through the crowd, heads turning in shock. Sophia's head snapped to the side, her hand flying up to cradle her cheek, shock replacing her earlier arrogance, her eyes widening for a split second before narrowing in fury. Clara recoiled, but kept her phone aloft, the red light blinking relentlessly, capturing it all perhaps unwittingly, providing the evidence that could fuel an online exposure, like those YouTube stories where leaked videos lead to sponsors dropping influencers, clients fleeing, and reputations shattering under the weight of collective outrage. "You've crossed the line," I said, my voice calmer now, each word heavy with resolve. Though inside, grief twisted like a knife for the family bonds I'd once clung to, now frayed beyond repair. Alex's grip on me tightened, his small body pressed close, but I stood firm, staring Sophia down, my heart pounding with a mix of empowerment and sorrow. She quickly recovered, smirk curling back into place, though I saw a flicker of hesitation in her eyes, a small crack in her pride, her cheek blooming red like Alex's bruise. "Always so dramatic," she sneered, stroking her cheek as if my slap meant nothing, but her voice wavered just enough to betray the hit. Beatrice stormed through the crowd, her face twisted with fury, her heels clicking sharply on the patio stones like accusations. "Elena! What on earth is wrong with you?" she snapped, drawing more eyes to us, her voice booming over the hushed murmurs. She glanced at Alex, her expression hardening into something cold and unrecognizable, her eyes flicking over his bruised face with disdain. "This is about that unwanted child again, isn't it? Always causing trouble." Each word was a dagger, every syllable a betrayal that pierced deeper than Sophia's barbs, reviving the golden child dynamics I'd read about in Reddit, AITA threads parents, enabling one sibling's cruelty while scapegoating the other, leading to generations of resentment and no-contact resolutions. Alex gasped, his grip on my hand tightening until it hurt, his small frame shaking with fresh sobs, and in that instant, grief overwhelmed my rage. How could my own mother dismiss him so callously, labeling him unwanted like discarded trash? It echoed the stats on single-parent depression, where familial rejection amplifies isolation, pushing rates to 25% higher, but also the therapist's tips on empowerment. Affirm your worth, set unbreakable boundaries to protect your child and heal your trauma. "Don't you dare call him that," I said, my voice trembling with rage as I faced Beatrice, pulling Alex close, shielding him from her venom, my heart shattering at the fear in his eyes, wide and wounded. He is my son, and he deserves far more than your cruelty. My mother's eyes widened, but she held her ground, arms folded tightly across her chest, her perfume floral and overpowering wafting toward me like a barrier. Samuel remained at the grill, silent as ever, his spatula scraping metal with indifferent rhythm, his silence a judgment in itself, amplifying the family's toxic indifference. The murmurs of the guests grew louder, a buzzing hive of judgment, but all I could focus on was Alex's fear and my growing determination, a resolve hardening like steel forged in fire. Clara kept filming, her smile stretching wider as though it were all a performance, the phone's lens glinting in the sunlight. I turned to her, my voice cutting through the air like a whip. Hand over that video or I swear you'll regret it. Her smile faltered, but she clutched her phone tightly, refusing to yield, her fingers white-knuckled around the device. Sophia gave a bitter laugh, dismissive wave following. You're only making a fool of yourself. But I was done playing their games, the grief for lost family ties giving way to empowerment. As good therapy suggests, channel rage into action, like documenting abuse to reclaim control. I pulled out my own phone, hand still shaking from the slap's aftershock, and snapped photos of Alex's swollen cheek and torn, dirty clothes, documenting every trace of cruelty he had endured, the bruises blooming purple, the frosting smears sticky under my touch. This will be evidence, I warned, locking eyes with Clara, imagining already how this could spiral into revenge, not just a lawsuit, but perhaps an anonymous tip to online forums or YouTube creators who specialize in exposing family betrayals, letting the internet's judgment rain down, like in those viral stories where siblings face boycotts and loss of face. I knelt beside Alex, my voice softening amid the chaos. Let's go home, sweetheart, I whispered, stroking his hair, feeling the dampness of his tears. He nodded, pale but trusting, his eyes meeting mine with a glimmer of relief. I guided him through the crowd, ignoring the stares that burned like spotlights, Sophia calling after me, her voice dripping with mockery. Run away like always. I didn't look back, the words bouncing off me like rain on armor. In the car, I buckled Alex's seatbelt, the click resounding like a finality, and he clutched his empty backpack to his chest, the fabric whispering against his shirt. My heart clenched with grief for his lost joy, but also with a fierce protectiveness as I took more photos of his injuries, each bruise etched into me as evidence for the battle ahead. The camera's flash stark in the dim interior, highlighting the shadows under his eyes. Sliding into the driver's seat, the engine roared to life with a guttural growl that mirrored my inner turmoil, vibrating through the steering wheel into my still stinging palm. I called Deborah, my lawyer, her number dialed with trembling fingers. She picked up quickly, her voice steady and professional. Elena, what happened? I glanced at Alex in the rearview mirror, his head bowed, tears tracing silent paths down his cheeks. They hurt Alex. I choked out, grief thickening my throat. Sophia and Clara, they let it happen, maybe even planned it. I have photos of his injuries, and Clara has a video. I want to sue for assault, emotional damage, everything we can. Deborah's tone sharpened, businesslike. Send me the photos. The video could be key. I'll start drafting the case. I nodded to myself, steel settling into my spine. Empowered by the step as psych resources emphasize, legal action can be a form of boundary setting, rebuilding strength after trauma. I'm taking him to a doctor right away. They won't get away with this. Hanging up, I turned all my focus to Alex, the car's hum a soothing undertone. Mom, are we going to be okay? He asked, his voice small and fragile. I reached back, squeezing his hand, feeling the coolness of his skin against mine. We'll be better than okay, Alex. They're going to pay for this. As I drove away, the party lights faded in the rearview mirror. But my resolve burned brighter than ever. A mix of rage and grief, fueling plans for more than just court. Perhaps that video leaked anonymously, inspiring a wave of online backlash like those YouTube revenge tales. The photos and that footage would ensure justice for my son, but what if the aftermath brought even more revelations? What if cutting ties revealed allies I never expected? The photos and that footage would ensure justice for my son, but what if the aftermath brought even more revelations? What if cutting ties revealed allies I never expected? The next morning, Beatrice stood at my doorstep holding a gift box, her face drawn, her usual composure replaced with a forced smile that didn't reach her eyes, the early sun casting long shadows across the porch. "Elena, can we talk?" Her voice softened as she held the box out like an olive branch, the wrapping paper crinkling faintly under her grip. I blocked the doorway with Alex hiding behind me, his eyes full of weariness, the bruise on his cheek now fading to a sickly yellow. The sting of her cruel words calling my son an unwanted child still burned inside me like acid, a betrayal that no gift could erase. "There's nothing to talk about," I replied coldly, my voice steady despite the grief churning within. "You already chose your side." Beatrice's eyes widened, but I firmly shut the door, the latch clicking with finality, my heart racing caught between pride and relief. Alex's safety came first, not her belated guilt, and in that moment, I felt a surge of empowerment, as psych tips from good therapy suggest. Rejecting toxic reconciliation attempts is a key step in building resilience, allowing space for true healing by affirming your boundaries and self-worth. A few days later, the news spread like wildfire. Clara's video had leaked online. It turned out an unexpected ally, a distant cousin at the party, fed up with Sophia's arrogance and the family's enabling ways, had overheard the whispers and secretly copied the footage from Clara's phone before sharing it anonymously. This twist, reminiscent of those YouTube revenge videos where hidden allies expose betrayals for public backlash, shattered the illusion of our family's perfect facade. The clip showed Sophia laughing while Alex cried, her cruelty laid bare before everyone, the audio capturing her sneers in crisp, damning clarity. Social media erupted, shredding Sophia's polished image as a glamorous real estate agent. Clients canceled contracts with terse emails, colleagues turned their backs in group chats, and online comments flooded in like a digital storm, calling her out for the bully she was. Deborah, my lawyer, quickly filed a lawsuit against her for assault and emotional distress, using the photos I had taken of Alex's injuries and the video as irrefutable evidence. A flood of panicked voicemails from Beatrice poured in, her voice cracking with desperation, but I deleted them all without listening, each swipe a small act of reclaiming my power. Justice was closing in, and for the first time, I felt the weight lifting. Supported by stats on trauma recovery studies, show that 70% of survivors who pursue legal action report improved mental health, as it provides validation and closure, reducing risks of long-term depression by up to 40%. Healing Alex became my only priority, a journey we navigated together amid the chaos. Though the bruises on his body faded, leaving only faint shadows on his skin, his unusual silence worried me deeply, a quiet that echoed the emotional shutdown therapists warn about in abused children. I took him to Dr. Larson, a child psychologist who patiently helped him voice his fears in a cozy office filled with the soft scent of lavender from a diffuser. "I think if I stay quiet, people will like me more," Alex whispered in one session, his small hands fidgeting with a stress ball, the words piercing me like shards. I squeezed his hand tightly, promising him that he would never have to endure such pain again. Drawing on psych advice from Brightside, building resilience in kids involves daily affirmations and safe spaces to express emotions, like journaling together to process trauma and foster self-compassion. At home, Alex and I slowly built a new rhythm, our apartment transforming from a place of survival to one of quiet growth. Greg, my ex-husband, distant since the divorce, began calling Alex every evening, his voice warm over the speaker as he taught him baseball techniques, the phone's glow illuminating Alex's face with a tentative smile. Those calls sparked an old joy, flickering back like a candle in the dark, and Greg even flew in for a weekend, his presence a bridge mending their father-son bond, one awkward hug at a time. My friends Theo and Evelyn also embraced us like family, becoming the found family I'd read about in Reddit. AITA communities, online groups, where survivors of family betrayal shared stories of cutting ties and finding validation in chosen circles, reminding me I wasn't alone in this. Theo took Alex to the batting cages, the crack of the bat echoing with encouragement, while Evelyn invited us for dinners where the aroma of homemade lasagna filled the air, wrapping us in warmth. One evening, Alex excitedly told Theo about a new pitcher he admired, his voice brimming with passion as laughter bubbled up from the table, a sound that healed something in me too. I watched, my heart swelling with hope. These small moments were slowly stitching together my son's fragile spirit, aligning with stats that show supportive networks can accelerate trauma, healing, with 85% of children in therapy showing improved resilience when surrounded by positive role models. On a crisp afternoon, I took Alex to the local baseball card shop, the bell tinkling as we entered, the air rich with the scent of fresh cardboard and polish. His face lit up as he gazed at the gleaming shelves, the cards' glossy surfaces catching the light like tiny mirrors, finally picking a pack with a rookie card. "Mom, can we get this one?" His eyes shone with anticipation, his fingers tracing the smooth edges. Smiling, I laid the money on the counter. "You deserve it, sweetheart," I said, ruffling his hair, the gloss of the card reflecting his growing confidence. As we left the shop, Alex hugged the pack tightly, his steps light as if a weight had been lifted from him, a sensory reminder of renewal. The crisp snap of the wrapper later that night as he opened it, revealing treasures that symbolized fresh starts. The therapy sessions with Dr. Larson continued, guiding Alex step by step through his trauma, incorporating tips like mindfulness exercises to build resilience, deep breathing during anxious moments, which we practiced together on our couch, the rhythm of our inhales syncing like a shared heartbeat. "He's incredibly strong," she told me one day, her voice reassuring. "But your love is the anchor that keeps him steady." I gave everything I had, reading him bedtime stories with animated voices, cheering at his school games from the sidelines, where the crowd's roars blended with my own, listening when he shyly shared his worries over warm cocoa that steamed up our mugs. Greg even attended one session, his presence steadying Alex further, slowly mending their bond with shared laughs over old photos, the glossy prints crinkling under their fingers. Theo and Evelyn organized a picnic where Alex played with other kids, his laughter ringing out carefree and pure amid the rustle of leaves and the scent of fresh sandwiches, the group's chuckles weaving a tapestry of belonging that drowned out the echoes of that awful party. Each day, I saw my son growing stronger, his confidence returning like spring after a harsh winter, joining online communities inspired by Reddit, where I found validation in threads about overcoming family trauma, users sharing tips on resilience like "celebrate small wins to rewire your brain," which I applied by praising Alex's every step. Meanwhile, Sophia's world collapsed under the weight of the backlash. The lawsuit advanced, Deborah demanding strict accountability with a ferocity that matched my resolve. The viral video had obliterated her social standing, her name now synonymous with cruelty, clients fleeing en masse as online forums dissected her actions in real-time threads. Beatrice called me back, her voice trembling with pleas, but I hung up immediately, no room left for pity-cutting ties. As psych experts advise, often leads to 60% better emotional outcomes for survivors. Alex stepped onto the baseball field with a confident smile, his glove fitting snugly around his hand, its leather creaking softly as he flexed his fingers, his stance steady as he took his place at shortstop. The cheers from the crowd thundered in the background, but his eyes were fixed on the game, glowing with determination. I stood in the bleachers, my heart swelling with pride. My son had come a long way, his spirit no longer clouded by the pain of that terrible day. The lawsuit against Sophia had reached its conclusion. Deborah presented the video and the photographs in court, undeniable proof of her cruelty, the judge's gavel echoing like justice's final word. The court issued a restraining order, forbidding her from contacting me or Alex ever again. Her reputation, already in ruins after the video spread, was now reduced to isolation and the collapse of what had once been a shining career. I felt no triumph, only relief. That Alex was safe, justice had been served, not through petty revenge, but through truth, bolstered by the unexpected ally's exposure that turned the tide. I had cut Beatrice out of my life completely. After I blocked her number, the calls stopped, and her attempts at reconciliation faded into silence. The voicemails filled with excuses were never heard. I owed her nothing, especially after what she had done to Alex. My family was no longer defined by blood, but by those who truly stood beside us. Greg, Evelyn, and Theo had become our anchors, lifelines in the storm, their support echoing the Reddit communities, where members celebrated found families as the ultimate resilience builder. Day by day, Alex's confidence grew. Stats on trauma healing, affirming our progress. 80% of children with therapy and strong support networks show marked improvements in self-esteem within a year. At school, he joined the baseball team, earning his spot through sheer effort, his coach praising his quick reflexes amid the dusty field's earthy scent. His teammates chanted his name, their voices blending in harmonious encouragement. One afternoon, Greg took him to practice, pitching balls for Alex to hit, the satisfying thwack resonating across the field. "You've got real talent, kid," Greg said with a broad grin. Alex beamed, his laughter ringing across the field like music. It was moments like these, filled with faith and encouragement, that allowed him to blossom. Evelyn and Theo remained steady pillars. Evelyn baked the cookies Alex loved, their sweetness filling our apartment with golden warmth. Theo shared stories of childhood games, sparking bigger dreams in Alex's young heart, his deep chuckles at picnics mingling with the group's joyful banter under shady trees. At a team cookout, Alex ran freely with friends, joy radiating from him, the air alive with sizzling grills and unrestrained laughter that wrapped us like a blanket. I watched quietly, my chest light with gratitude. These were the people who chose to love us. They were our true family. One evening, Alex sat at the kitchen table, carefully arranging his baseball card collection, the gloss of each card catching the light as he turned them. "Mom, I'm glad we have each other," he said firmly. I knelt beside him, meeting his gaze. "Me too, sweetheart," I whispered, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Family is the people who protect you, who lift you up." Alex nodded, understanding far beyond his years. That night, as I tucked him in, he wrapped his arms tightly around me, a hug that carried a trust I would cherish forever. The legal victory had closed a painful chapter. The video, once a symbol of Alex's suffering, had become the very key to protecting him, ensuring Sophia could never hurt us again. I no longer carried the weight of my family's judgment. Beatrice's betrayal and cruelty had taught me a bitter truth. Family is not where you come from, but those who stay when you need them most. Alex's season continued, and I cheered at every game, my voice rising alongside Greg's and Theo's. Evelyn passed out cookies to the kids, her laughter mingling with the crowds. At one game, Alex hit a double, and his whole team swarmed him in celebration. I clapped until my hands stung, my smile as wide as his. Alex was no longer the boy hiding in the tent, terrified of rejection. He was Alex, strong, fearless, and surrounded by love. Looking back, I could see the journey we had taken. That day's pain had not destroyed us. It had forged our strength. I had learned to let go of those who hurt us, to build a family out of those who cherished us, drawing on psych tips like gratitude journaling to cultivate resilience daily. Alex had learned that he was enough, that his worth did not depend on anyone else's acceptance. Together, we had found strength and a home in the love of those who chose us. As the sun set over the baseball field, Alex waved at me, glove raised high. I waved back, my heart overflowing. Family is the people who protect you, who believe in you. Have you found your found family after cutting toxic ties? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear how you've built resilience too.